Hello everybody and welcome, and today we're going to be taking a look at major strategy genres, which are RTS and Grand Strategy, and compare them based on their elements, both individually and against one another, to see which one can scratch your strategy itch and just have you exercise your mind a little better than the others. So first I would like to talk about Civilization 6. Civ series has been one of the longest running strategy series that have ever been around. It's a well-known 4X strategy genre. And with the latest installment, Civilization 6 and the expansion, I recently got the opportunity to play it. And I would say it's okay. It's a pretty decent entry. However, it's, very easy to get into. Pretty new player friendly and pretty deep and complex. However, the new mechanics have been a little bit not well introduced. And by that I mean this. The concept of districts and the sub-buildings as well as policies is just so much, and there are so many of them that most of the time you end up not even reading them outside of just a few ones that you have picked. So there are a lot of options, but they aren't always viable. The advisors, the governors have been a great addition. The new units, technologies, the climate change mechanic have been quite interesting. The United Nations has been a little bit, well, as usual, problematic. Now, let's go to the biggest problem of Civilization series, that is the artificial intelligence. Civ series has been well known for always having a subpar AI. In fact, if you're playing anything above the Prince difficulty, as far as I know, the AI's full capabilities are already unlocked. And all that you're doing by increasing difficulty is just giving AI more bonuses that you will be able to exceed towards mid-game anyway, and after that point you have already won. So in that regard it isn't very challenging. You do not feel like you're playing a strategy game, that you're outsmarting your opponent, but that you are solving a puzzle. So that is the state of the single player. The multiplayer in Civ I personally have not played, but that one has to be quite interesting with all of these options and races towards wonders and these special units and strategies. Rush is sadly just as effective. The new Golden Age mechanic. There are just so many mechanics thrown in, but all of these mechanics individual are quite shallow, unfortunately. You build your cities. The most deeper mechanics, as I should say, have been the older ones, and the new mechanics seem a little bit tacked on without solving the core problem of civilization of the past, which was the artificial intelligence. Our next contestant is the Stellaris. Currently, I would say Stellaris probably has the most, how should I say, both the story and replayability value, because even though the AI itself is not that great, it's not like playing against the multiplayer people, of course, but because of the way the AIs are different, every game feels quite different, which is something that most of the other games in our list are not going to have. The Stellaris has quite a great customizability of your race, of your nation. It is, however, a little harder to get into in comparison to Civilization series. So that is one thing to keep in mind. It is a very nice mix of 4X and Grand Strategy, and it is kind of a lot of people said Europa Universalis in space. However, no, it is a completely different game. It is just its own beast, and with its latest expansions it has just gotten better and better. The developers have been listening to the community and have been fixing the most important problems within the game, and every time you play it, every 6 months you take a break and come back, you feel like you're playing a completely different game. So with that in mind, let's take a look at our next entry, Europa Universalis. Europa Universalis is a classic grand strategy game. Outside of Crusader Kings 2, it's probably the most famous one. It's, starts at 1444, and you start from there, goes until I want to say 1821, but you can change those values, and your goal is to simply manage your country as best to your abilities. Taking over the world, go ahead. Build the biggest alliance, sure. And I don't know, create some very bizarre scenarios and colonize the entire Europe as a Native American nation, go ahead. However, with all that being said, it has its own drawbacks. It is a little harder to get into, and a lot of the games, after you have played it once, which is going to be hundreds of hours, mind you, just a single session, even though it goes for about 400 years, and with every day taking about a second or so, it depends on the speed that you're playing, the options there, as long as you're playing a different nation, while they are quite different, for example, playing, say, Austria and a Native American nation will feel quite different, it still essentially feels like the same game. France is gonna be France, Austria is gonna be Austria, Ottomans are gonna be Ottomans. So, with that in mind, I just didn't feel like it had great replayability, but I do know a lot of people who have spent thousands of hours in that game, and it does have a very nice multiplayer community as well. And it is definitely quite enjoyable. The next entry in our series is the Total War. Now, I myself have not yet played the Three Kingdoms. However, I heard very positive things. A bit of insider information. Well, not really insider information, but very old information. Back in the days of Rome 2, they had announced that they will be splitting their team in two. One team will be making the single-player versions, which after Rome 2, it was the the Warhammer series, and then, of course, the Attila and everything. Those came afterwards too. Britannia, and all of those games, you might see something in common, that their multiplayer has been lacking in comparison to Shogun 2, which is by most considered to be their best work so far. So, with that being said, Three Kingdoms has been lauded as a, great single-player game. Not so much in multiplayer, however, definitely worth checking out without spoiling. I do not wish to spoil much. However, the new mechanics the new additions have been responded with mixed results from what I've heard. However, in general, the leanings have been positive. So do give it a try. The Total War series, the old entries are still active. You can still find some people playing Shogun 2, Total War Warhammer 2, as well as a few other titles. They are, I'm sure their future titles are going to be quite interesting as well. So with this, we have compared the four big players in the strategy business. There are also a lot of indie entries that just beat all of these major entries, just beats them straight out of the water. Those kind of more innovative entries into the genre have been great. Now, to compare them, which one should you play? Which one is the best one to go? Now, this is completely my opinion. However, I will say, in terms of sheer quality, I would have to nominate Stellaris. Now, here is why. The sheer replayability and the depth of it, and how every game evolves differently towards the late game, separates it from the rest of the competition. With that being said, you should still definitely check out Civilization 2. That one is, I would say, a close contender. Not Civ 2, Civ 6. The reason for that is it is a great entry into the genre. It's great to play, however, after you are tired with the same old mechanics, even if you're playing as different nations, it still feels very much the same. Whether you play as Rome, Russia, Norway, they for the most part do feel similar, at least that has been my experience. Stellaris also has a great multiplayer community, which is the main reason I am nominating Stellaris as the top game within our list. With that being said, what are the other recommendations on this on this list. Europa Universalis if you're a history fan. If you are interested in the nitty-gritty details of managing an empire and a diplomacy, definitely go for Europa Universalis as well as Crusader Kings 2. Crusader Kings 2, in my opinion, while yes, technically it is a grand strategy, it is a whole genre of its own. I want to call it... Dynasty 'em up. Yes, it is. Crusader Kings 2 is a dynasty 'em up, where you are managing a dynasty from start to finish, and it's a whole different beast of its own. My suggestion, start with Civ, and then play some Europa Universalis, and maybe Stellaris if you're more into science fiction, because I know some people just have great aversion against science fiction. And then lastly would try Total War. Total War is a bit more action-oriented type of a strategy game. Its RTS elements have always been quite solid, you know, with certain units countering one another, with micro being quite important. Those have been are the main things that set these genres apart, and I hope you enjoyed this little round-em-up that we had and the summary of these genres. Well, with that being said, do let me know what you think about these main games and how they compare against one another. Until then, we'll see you next time.